High in the barren mountains of Southern California, close to the Mexican border, stands Goat Canyon Trestle Bridge. The huge structure dominates the empty landscape around it. This is no ordinary railway bridge. Goat Canyon Trestle is the largest curved wooden structure on Earth. Before dawn, a team from the Southwest Railway Museum sets out to inspect this record-holding structure. Ahead of them is a grueling 17-mile journey along a line which is closed to all other traffic. Waiting for them is a structure which once tested its builders to the limit. Now it's abandoned, and its time is running out.
When you first see the Goat Canyon Trestle, it's such an impressive sight. There's this enormous structure in front of you that looks so complex.
It's the largest remaining wooden structures on a curve in the United States.
It was a truly brilliant idea, and it's amazing that it still stands.
In 1932, a small army of workmen set up a camp in a remote canyon in the Colorado desert. Conditions were brutal. No water for miles or protection from the relentless desert sun. Their job was to repair a vital rail line connecting San Diego to the rest of the USA. A collapsed tunnel had to be replaced with a giant trestle bridge, and the clock was ticking. Diana Hyatt, president of the Pacific Southwest Railway Museum, is an expert on the line and the man who created it.
This all started with one man, John D. Spreckles. He felt that it was important for San Diego to have a transcontinental link to the eastern part of the United States. Northern California had their transcontinental link, and he believed that he could promote San Diego and its beautiful natural harbor for business and growing the city itself.
A millionaire businessman from San Diego, John D. Spreckles. His whole ethos was that if you want people to live somewhere, you have to give them a form of transportation. It has to be comfortable, and most important of all, it has to be cheap.
When John Spreckles began work on the San Diego and Arizona Railway in 1907, the challenges were so great that it became known as the Impossible Railroad. Its route took it through some of the most unforgiving terrain in North America.
The most cost-effective idea that was put forth and seemingly crazy was that they dip down into Mexico to avoid a lot of elevation change. The railroad dips down for 44 miles and then comes back up at Lindero on the Mexican side. From there, they traversed through Carrizo Gorge, which is the most demanding portion of the entire railroad.
Carrizo Gorge provided a convenient break in the mountains, but building a rail line along its steep southern wall was incredibly difficult and dangerous. It took 11 years to build just 14 miles of line.
The railroad was plagued with issues, but a large portion is primarily within this region because it's so unstable. Some of these mountains are solid rock. Some of them are a combination of decomposed granite. And once the slide starts, it just keeps sliding until there's nothing left.
No one had ever attempted to drive a railroad through such hostile territory.
There were all sorts of problems building the railway so close to the Mexican border. I mean, there was incident after incident, kidnaps, murders.
That entire stretch of the San Diego and Arizona line was kind of landslide ready. It's not solid ground, it's kind of shattered granite that they're building this on top of. And so to be there, working on that, knowing that the land could go away beneath your feet at any time, not only would have been completely petrifying, but To achieve what they did and to have built that whole stretch of line, it's unbelievable.
It wasn't until 1919 that Spreckels was able to hammer in a golden track spike to show his 148-mile rail link was complete. But success came at too high a cost.
By 1919, he had finally completed the railroad at a cost of $18 million, and it almost completely bankrupted him.
The problems weren't over for the impossible railroad. When the tunnel above Goat Canyon was destroyed by a landslide in 1932, the railroad engineers had to get the line back into operation as quickly as possible. San Diego Transport Authority engineer Dan Davis has studied the building of the impossible railroad.
They wanted the quickest, cheapest way to get back into operation, and building the wooden trestle was just that for them. To my left is the collapsed Tunnel 15. There's a massive slide area up on the hillside. But the top of the portal is about where the old alignment used to be, the rail lines. Shoved it down about 18, 19 feet.
The result was the incredible Goat Canyon Trestle. 600 feet long and 200 feet high, it's the largest curved wooden structure in the world.
The Goat Canyon Trestle is an amazing engineering feat. The question is, was it really necessary, or was it a product of its time, which was all about, wow, it's impossible to get from here to there, but we can do it.
Building the Goat Canyon Trestle must have been an absolute nightmare. Just look at where it is. It's in the middle of the desert. You've got a lack of water, extreme temperatures. You're building the whole thing out of timber, which is going to be extremely dry out there. The smallest spark or a cigarette casually thrown away could set the whole thing alight. It's absolutely treacherous working conditions, yet they got it done.
Using timber for the new trestle was the fastest way to replace the section of the line caused by the tunnel collapse. But it meant that the trestle was always at risk from fires. Not just wildfires in the tinder-dry undergrowth, but fire caused by the railway itself. The engineers had a solution.
Steam trains were more of a problem in the tunnels because of the exhaust. It goes up and gets into the tunnel wood. On this, because it's on a grade, a 1.6% grade, the problem comes from the brake shoes. Having to apply the brakes for long distances, it would heat up and hot pieces of metal would come off and could fall down into the superstructure and substructure of the trestle.
There's a tank car that sits above this trestle that they installed there with the piping specifically to suppress any fire that would burn their $300,000 project.
And they would have a person tend that so that when the trains would travel over the bridge, he would turn on the valves and come out and start the sprinklers and stuff just to make sure none of the hot pieces of metal off the brake shoe were able to catch it on fire. But without that, it would have been at great risk.
But without realizing it, they'd compromised its strength by adding features which weren't needed.
The speed on this bridge, because of the 14-degree curve on it, is about 10 miles an hour. In real terms, that's a very sharp curve. It's very difficult to maintain that. It's also very destructive to the structure.
Timber structures like the Goat Canyon Trestle are designed to be quite flexible. If you were to watch a great big train rumble across the top, you would see flexibility and movement in all of the members, in all of the trestles and the ties. They would be moving. It was designed to do that. In fact, it's part of the beauty. As they all move, the stresses are kind of relieved and not all taken in by one point. The fact that the wood will expand in heat and contract when it gets cold, some of those timbers are drying out faster than others, means that that flexibility is now possibly part of the reason why it's coming apart. The timber itself is still great. It's just the bolts that are holding it together have been loosened by all of that movement and flexibility. And if no one's going along to tighten them up anymore, you're going to get a structure that's no longer sound.
Despite the engineers' success at Goat Canyon, the life of the San Diego and Arizona line was short.
San Diego, Arizona was known as, kind of derogatorily, as the slow, dirty, and aggravating. There was no air conditioning in the cars. There were no screens on the windows. They were running steam locomotives. They would go through these tunnels, and they would be choked out by the steam and the fumes, and they'd have to close the windows, and it'd be 100 degrees. So I don't think it was a very good ride. It probably broke even in the good years. In the bad years, it would have lost money. So much so to the point that after Hurricane Kathleen came through this particular area in, I believe, 1974, wiped out a couple of trestles, Southern Pacific finally decided to throw in the towel.